American Airlines is spending over $1 billion, over $1 billion investing in the Denver airport. Let's take a look and see why. We need to understand what's happening with American Airlines and in Denver.
2023 was Denver International Airport's busiest year on record.
It is busier than it ever was.
While airline stocks have not recovered to pre-pandemic levels, passengers have returned in record-breaking numbers.
We will end 2023 at much higher than our forecast at about 78 million passengers annually. So this has been a tremendous growth.
The airport, which opened in 1995, was originally built to handle 50 million passengers per year. But now that number is expected to reach over 100 million per year by 2027. It went from the 21st busiest airport in the world in 2019 to 6th in 2023.
Currently, we're running about 450 flights a day out of Denver. And that's to 175 different destinations, 10 different countries.
United Airlines is Denver's biggest operator, followed by Southwest and Frontier. The Mid-Continent Airport has become United's biggest hub. It recently invested nearly $1 billion in Denver to add more gates, flights, destinations, and opened the largest lounge in its network.
40% of our customers are local Denver, and it's a fast-growing city. We want to grow before 2030 to about 650 flights a day.
CNBC got a behind-the-scenes look at United's Denver operations and explores how the airport and airline plan to keep up with demand.
Has anybody ever been to Denver? And I ain't saying just going down there because it was hot. Remember when everybody was trying to go down there in order to go to a Deion Sanders games when they had won like their first 2 games or whatever? I've never been to Denver. Of all of the places that I've been inside of the United States, I've never been to Denver. Also, I've only flown American Airlines maybe twice in my entire life. I've flown Spirit more than I've flown American Airlines, but obviously I fly Delta a lot. I've flown Sun Country. A lot of people are not familiar with that, but a lot of the different operators of different businesses fly through Sun Country, so they'll have you fly with a bunch of other people that they got, whatever. And I've also flown private twice in my entire life, right? But I'm not familiar with the Denver airport, nor am I familiar with what the growth is over in Denver. I am familiar with the migrant crisis that they got going over there, but I've never flown into Denver before. I'll probably go up there, I don't know, maybe sometime this summer. We got to go on tour, y'all.
Denver is the 3rd busiest airport in the United States and 6th in the world. Since 2019, it has added the most seats flown than any other airport with an increase of 17%. It has added the most seats flown than any other airport with an increase of 17%.
People have prioritized travel in such a way that we're seeing big numbers, and not just us, but all over the country.
Denver is uniquely located in the middle of the country. 96% of flights in 2023 were domestic flights, and a little over 41% of total passengers were connecting to other destinations.
The 3 big major airlines in the United States, United, American, and Delta Airlines, they have multiple hub airports across the continent. But the ones on the east and the west coast specifically are focused on serving international connectivity.
So maybe that's a factor because of the international activity. I know personally for me, Atlanta is the biggest Delta hub. Detroit is, I believe, the 2nd biggest Delta hub. I fly back and forth over to Miami. When you fly to Miami, you can go into Fort Lauderdale or you can go into Miami. I like flying into Miami. It's a little bit more expensive. But usually the places that I'm staying at down in Miami is closer than what it takes in order for me to get from Fort Lauderdale without flying to Fort Lauderdale. I fly into Dallas a lot. I think that one of the smallest airports that I've ever flown into is Jacksonville. Not the smallest, but I think that one of the I can't get a direct flight to Jacksonville. I got to fly into Atlanta in order to get into Jacksonville. But I don't think that I've ever flown into Denver's airport. It's pretty interesting. So to see them investing over $1 billion into the Denver airport is interesting. I've never had to even do a layover in Denver.
Whereas those in the centre are much more focused about domestic connectivity. And they fared much better during the pandemic and have continued to grow out from there. But it's been a noticeable feature that they've bounced back quicker than, say, perhaps some of the larger airports like JFK.
The city of Denver has also been growing rapidly. From 2010 to 2020, the population grew nearly 20%.
It's about room to grow. It's about economic investment in the area generally, and more corporations moving into the area with the demand for air travel.
We are an incredible economic generator for the state of Colorado, the largest economic generator in the state at about $36.4 billion. So our impact is very, very clear. We have 40,000 employees at this airport.
The airport, which often deals with the longest wait times in the country, has big projects in place to prepare for 120 million passengers per year by 2045.
The first thing that we're doing is redoing the terminal itself. And so we're expanding the Great Hall. We are putting in new security checkpoint areas. We have 6 runways. We're doing pre-environmental work on the 7th runway. We are looking at a new baggage system. We are doing early work on a consolidated rental car facility.
Denver is a much newer airport compared to New York's JFK or Chicago O'Hare and is not capacity constrained. It is the largest airport in the U.S. by landmass with 53 square miles.
But more importantly than that, I think it has the best of both worlds. It has a really good legacy airline, providing all of that mainline connectivity. And it also has a very successful and a very large low-cost airline that has been firmly established for many years. And between them, they offer an ideal range of connectivity from the airport.
I think one of the biggest reasons why Denver is so successful with their airport, based off of what's being communicated here, is where they have their airport located. So I think that Vegas has a great location for their airport because it's not really like in the smack dab middle of the city. If you look at like a Miami, right? Miami is kind of landlocked. So there is no real innovation when it comes to expanding. You can only upgrade the airport itself. Same thing with New York. That's why they got 3 of them. You can fly into Newark and then go straight into New York, which is much cheaper, or you can go into LaGuardia or JFK, right? But one of the benefits of what Denver has is that they've built their airport to where there's not a lot surrounding it as far as landmass. So it's easy for them to continue to expand and grow and fix it. So those were the real heroes. The real heroes is the people that expanded or pick the location of the airport itself. That makes it much easier for you to be able to get in and out and take care of business and also expand it and upgrade it. And it's also in the middle of the country, right? So I think that that's one of the benefits of flying in and out of Denver.
We have invested over $1 billion in the past few years, and we're continuing with that investment. So our new gates, we're doing our Gate of the Future product, which is new seating, lots of electrical, new technology, and monitors.
The thing about the United States that is very different to other parts of the world is that investment in airports is frequently a joint partnership between the airline and the airport authority and the city and the metropolitan area. Whereas in Europe, airport investment per se is made by the airport.
As they think about what their growth looks like, we're thinking about how our growth looks like, and then we're sitting down on a regular basis to determine how
I see what you're saying, Ironwood. I'm learning. I'm listening to you.
we can meet in the middle, if you will, in terms of how it will benefit their passengers and the flying public out here.
In the United States, the airlines have to take a much bigger share of that risk and that investment, but it also gives them the return. It's their asset to control. United clearly see an opportunity here that they can grow perhaps more effectively than they can in Chicago, or certainly on either the East or the West Coast.
So is it possible that I probably don't get a chance to go through Denver because I usually fly Delta? Because it looks like it's mainly a United hub, even though Delta probably flies in and out of there. But I don't really fly American Airlines like that. I usually just fly Delta. So I'm assuming that it's a possibility that I've never visited the Denver airport, A, because I never actually felt the need to go to Denver, and then B, because of the fact that it seems like it's more of a United hub.
In Newark and San Francisco, for example.
Going out of Denver, we have 50,000 passengers on average.
United employs roughly 10,000 people in Denver, with close to 850 in technical operations.
This is the SOC, which is the Station Operations Control Center. It's the central nervous system of the operation. This is where all information is brought into us and disseminated out to the proper departments for action.
Every department is represented in the entire room, whether it's a passenger having an issue with a connection, crews timing out, or a maintenance problem.
We can find out what anomalies are happening with aircraft by looking at either one of these screens very quickly.
On the day we were there, a flight from Newark, New Jersey to Narita, Japan was diverted to Denver, but because the flight was rerouted, the crew timed out.
So it's going to come into Denver, we're going to recrew it. We will service the aircraft just as if it's an inbound.
If someone else is having a bad day, it is going to affect us because we do a lot of hub-to-hub flying, and our crews kind of get messed up then also. So if the crew's in Newark and they can't get out and they're needed for a Denver to Orange County, we have to have a plan in place.
Newark, another hub in United's network, suffers from a lack of room to grow. The older airport only has 2 runways compared to Denver's 6, but flies just as many customers. The airline had to cut flights in Newark this summer to reduce delays.
Newark was designed a long time ago for People's Express and 727 works. So the terminals themselves, the infrastructure, the gating situation is much, much different than Denver's. Denver lends itself to a very, very long terminal that simplifies taxi in and taxi out. Denver also has a lot of concrete to park airplanes. We're very constrained here with parking.
Different airports have different operational strategies.
In LA, there's not room to grow. We can get bigger on aircraft size, but we can't necessarily bring in a lot more flights, so it's a completely different strategy. In Denver particularly, we have room to grow. We have nice big new gate areas. We'll have 90 gates.
Denver's second largest carrier, Southwest, has been expanding at the airport as well. It opened a $100 million maintenance facility as it also continues to grow.
I'm not a fan of Southwest like that. Apparently, my daughter is in there going crazy on video games, and she don't hear me, and I don't want to keep muting myself because then I'll forget to unmute myself. But it looks like one of the reasons why they're investing in Denver is basically off of infrastructure and location, and not necessarily just because Denver is an awesome city itself. Because apparently United's main hub and their base operations is in Denver, and so that's what's incentivizing them to continue to invest in that airport in particular. But it's interesting. I like to learn about this type of stuff, and them spending over $1 billion continuing to build up over at the Denver airport is pretty awesome. So just some new information. I still would never invest in an airline itself because I think that airlines is always vulnerable to whatever happens within the economy. And again, I tell you guys all the time, when people first start to cut back and pare back when they're suffering, they pare back when it comes to travel, leisure, all that stuff. So I still wouldn't invest in American Airlines myself personally, but do you? We got Stock Club this weekend, so we'll go over airlines if you guys want to.